Good evening, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that numbers tell stories. In this room, we have 300 of the most influential and successful business people in the country. One thing you have in common is that you've all been great leaders in New Zealand business over the past 30 years. Another thing you have in common is that you are all baby boomers, a generation that youth today look up to, but also a generation that we are scared of. No, it is not your fashion choices, your 80s hairstyles, or your lack of Facebook friends that scares us. It's actually the future cost of your mobility scooters, your rest homes, and your medical bills that scare us more. Yes, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, me and my generation are going to be the ones supporting you. And this is where the numbers tell a very interesting story. When the majority of you were born, there were around 7 people working to support every one person over the age of 65. Today, that figure has dropped a little. 5 of you are working to support every one retiree. By the time you have all officially retired, which let's say is going to be in about 20 years or so, only 3 people are working to support every one of you. I am going to be one of those 3 people. This tells the story of a very different New Zealand to the one that you have experienced. The ageing population is not a new phenomenon. It's been in the media a lot lately with the discussion about superannuation, whether we should raise the age, whether we should means test it. But in my opinion, as a young person, I think the important discussion that we should be having is how are we going to make those 3 people that are supporting every one of you as efficient, as effective and as productive as possible. In the context of tonight, how are we going to create great young business people? Studying in a classroom can teach you theory, but to be honest, I think there's no better way of creating passionate, driven, motivated young business people than letting them experience it for themselves. This time a year ago, I said that I would never consider a career in business. My impression that it was too stressful, too boring, too cutthroat, and to be honest, there were just too many men in black suits for me. It was only because of one very passionate business teacher that I became involved in the Lion Foundation Young Enterprise Scheme. In this scheme, we have to create a real business, negotiate with real suppliers, create real websites, sell real stock, create real financials, real budgets, real cash flows. I very nearly had a real heart attack when I found out we hadn't included GST in our manufacturing cost. What we're doing is making real mistakes and learning real lessons from them. That girl who refused to ever be involved in commerce a year ago is now standing here talking to the most influential business people in the country, about to go on to university to study science and commerce, and has a huge passion and drive to be involved in a business career. That is the power of an experience. In this room, there are 300 business people with lifetimes of experience that should be shared with young people. One thing running a business has taught me is to be clear about what you want. So tonight I'm going to be very clear and ask you to invest in young people in New Zealand. It can be your money, but to be honest, we would benefit more from an investment of your time and an investment of your expertise. Teach us what you know. Let us come and experience your businesses. Let us share in that passion that you have for your companies. Let's accelerate that learning process. Today I want to leave you with 3 ways that you can invest in young people in New Zealand. The first is mentoring. I know, not exactly an original idea, and I'm sure you will mentor people within your own businesses. But there's a very real opportunity to extend that out further. In a scheme like the Young Enterprise Scheme, every team has a mentor who works with them for, let's just say, an hour a week on how to develop their businesses. I know that as business leaders you probably don't have the time to do this, but your employees could, if you give them the encouragement and the time to get involved. The second way that you can is by linking up with your local college, your local university, or a polytech. Your involvement can actually be as small or as big as you want to make it. On a larger scale, how great would it be if we had a business school in every college in the country, like Tony Falkenstein has done with Onehunga High School? Rangitoto College has created a kind of a smaller business school where they aim to connect students with local businesses. For example, HSBC has started inviting students along when they have presentations from visiting economists and experts. Some businesses have started to link up with schools as part of their social responsibility programs and have started to assign staff to work with these business classes. Westpac has recently invited students to work at their stall at the Mystery Creek Field Days. One local business has started to regularly invite students to their product launches. These are really simple, small ways that you can give students a taste and an experience of a real business. On the practical end of the workforce, MIT has set up trade academies in the past few years where students split their time between school, studying their trade at MIT, and practical work experience 1 day a week. The third way that you could possibly get involved is by offering job opportunities in the holidays. I have just found the university calendar for next year, and it has astonished me that we pretty much spend the same amount of time on holiday that we do actually studying. So I'm probably thinking that these holidays are an ideal time to actually accelerate that learning. Whether it's employing a student for 2 weeks to work on a project or offering them an annual internship every summer, by giving young people a small experience in a real working business, you give them a huge insight into the world of business. I'm sure that you've all planned very well for your retirement. I don't think you'd be in this room if you hadn't. But you kind of don't really need the help of those 3 people. But there are many baby boomers out there for whom that's not the case. You here in this room are in a very, very unique position to make a difference. You sit here today because you are some of the most passionate, driven and successful business people in New Zealand over the past 30 years. My question is, what investment will you make to help create the passionate, driven business people of the next 30? Thank you very much.